All right, y'all. More nonsense. This one's gonna be a little bit more personal. More Blackpill content and more distinction I'm noticing, and kind of figuring out as a person and also people around me, like kind of where we sit on the hierarchy of human behavior, human nature. Made a video about the black pill, about incels, about self-awareness and where you fit in and all that, and that's definitely been giving me a lot of clarity on about myself and other people around me. But also having that knowledge has also brought like a lot of anxiety onto me, where I understand now that anxiety means that you have to actually do something. You actually have to take action and actually make whatever's kind of causing conflict in your life, gotta kind of do something about it. So that's double-edged sword. I like having that anxiety. I like having that motivation, even though I don't really believe in actual motivation. Having that drive, that energy to do something and to change my reality, but also it does cause a lot of emotions to come to the forefront, and it is kind of hard to mask those emotions, act like everything's okay when everything isn't. Everything isn't cool, everything isn't copacetic, but you gotta have to do that at least a little bit, so you don't project those feelings on other people and kind of like ruin their days. So I understand that for myself, to where having that knowledge, coming to that acceptance, that understanding is going to benefit me in the long term, in the long run. I know it is. This is like the last couple of years. I'll even say since COVID is when I started to really start to accept this reality for myself and for everyone around me. And I just know the more I do it, the more I be more unapologetic about it. It's going to be a lot easier for me to kind of cope with everything, because I understand now with the black pill, kind of like where I fall in it, and where I fall in like the actual reality in humanity, where the truth of why people treat you the way that they treat you, why you treat yourself the way that you treat yourself, why I care so much about myself and I don't see other people putting in that same effort for themselves. It's because they just don't feel all that great about themselves, because of one of the effects of having the internet and the entire globe being connected is we can all collectively compare ourselves to other people and their situations. This is something that's very, very new. Even when the television came out, people were like slowly blackpilling themselves about what they had and what they didn't have, who people were towards each other, even, not even from like a personable standpoint, but even from like a cultural standpoint as well, like what cultures were doing this, that, and the third. And we have so much information that kind of tells us, what this country's doing versus what this country's doing, how happy this country is versus how happy this other country is. And that comparison is just, causing a whole lot of chaos, causing a whole lot of anxiety with people, where they just have to do something because they just feel this urge, this act, and to take action. So we've been slowly blackpilling ourselves little by little, and then the internet came, and then all of a sudden, more and more neurodivergent people got access to information that we never really had as a collective, as a whole, and it is just causing just a lot of people are just kind of not taking it all that well, or even if they are taking it well, it still is overwhelming just to get all this information about who you are and what you are and why, where you fit in and everything. I from the outside looking in, benefit a lot from the black pill, from reality, from the truth of how people are. I do, depending on who I'm dealing with and the situation that I'm in, I get treated either like very well or very poorly from people. It's either one or the other, and it all dictates on how that person feels about themselves. I don't really have a whole lot of control. I might try to make friends with someone, to be cool with someone, and be like very honest and open with that person, and they might be in like a huge downward spiral about how they feel about themselves. They might have been dumped, the last like 3 times in the last year, ghosted 4 times, fired 6 times in the last 2 months. Who knows what's going on in their lives, and then they see someone who they perceive as better than them or have more than them, not only from like a social lens but also from a genetic lens, from a genetics standpoint, which you can tell just by looking at someone's face, how gifted and how blessed that they are, and even looking at the rest of their body, that'll give you a really good indicator. That's not even talking about the wealth and the material objects that they have as well. That's also going to give you a good gauge about who that person is. But that person comes into your life, and it's going to be very hard to like pretend to be happy for that person and be happy for that person in that situation. And I've been dealing with that pretty much my whole entire life. But now, since I have all this new knowledge, and it just seems like everyone else also has a little bit of that knowledge, I'm not sure how much of it that they have. It's very hard to tell, since a lot of people, a lot of us, even myself included, doesn't really talk about these things socially in social settings. It's still a little taboo. It's getting better. It's going to have to become a little bit more socially acceptable to talk about these things, because it is something that's very much in the forefront of people's minds. So we're going to eventually have to get to this point of talking about the hierarchies and what we do and don't have, and how each race kind of has their pluses and minuses. There is no like master race or the best type of people. We all have strengths and weaknesses that we all kind of have to eventually get past and to get to a better understanding. That's the beauty of America. We've been able to withstand all this because of the strengths and weaknesses that we've been able to observe from each race of people, each gender, and the culture that we've been able to collectively create for ourselves. But just coming to that understanding that I am in the whatever percentile of people, being 6'2", having a fairly attractive face, a really well put together body, and being also black and having a lot of melanin. And what that brings, I'll probably make a video about like what actually being dark skinned and having melanin actually means. It's more than just like a shade, you know what I'm saying? It has a lot of blessings that comes with it, and that's one of the reasons why dark skinned people get treated with a lot more hostility than non-dark skinned people. So you add that all together, it definitely explains like why I get treated the way that I get treated, and why I see other people getting treated, a little bit closer to what I expected to be treated, in society, with a decent amount of respect and honesty, getting how people truly feel. That's something very rare for me to get, people's true feelings. Everyone seems to have like ulterior motives with everything, which, that's true for everyone, but I feel like the more in tune you are with yourself, and the more you have, and the more just authentic you're being, the less reason you have to really kind of have, something else going on, not being as direct. We all technically have ulterior motives, but just like how much are you projecting them out versus how much are you suppressing and keeping to yourself. But the black pill is kind of, reality is really, really exposing it for what it is. And, the black pill is pretty much all the pills, all of this internet psychology that we're creating, in real time. It's pretty much, pretty much a byproduct of neurodivergent brains. People whose brains were wired differently, who can kind of process a lot of information and kind of send it out in a very different way. This is social media is pretty much exclusively for neurodivergent people. There's nothing really neurotypical about it. How they want you to engage with each other and how information is being filtered out is very much catered to people who want their brain stimulated in a very specific type of way, visually, audibly. It very much caters towards people with ADHD and autism, and that's pretty much what all these pills are: the blue pill, red pill, black pill. They pretty much cater to those groups of people, and that's why I see a lot of really good information coming out of it, but also a lot of nuance being missed. There's a lot of like black and white thinking that's going on, especially when it comes to relationships, friendships, partnerships. There's so much of just this is what these people are, this is what these people are, this, that, and this. There's so much more to people that people are just missing because of the traumas, the culture, the environment that they were in, that they saw. Huge thing about autism is that you kind of you're pretty much, your brain is a giant sponge. You're going to absorb so much of your environment, and kind of project that back out. So if you were in an environment that was very hostile to women, your brain is going to kind of gravitate towards that, and you're going to kind of become what people label as a misogynist, because that's what you saw. You know what I'm saying? Where either like you saw people being very hostile to women, women might have been very hostile to you, so you became hostile back to them, and then vice versa with other people, and it transcends all genders. I've seen quite a few, men bash on men because of their history. Same thing with women. I've seen a lot of women bashing on women because of their history, and especially if it's like very close to home with your mother, your fathers, and your siblings, and the people who were like very close to you in your environment. You're very hard on those people. And if you don't get a hold on that, before, I think like you can pretty much change to like maybe you're 40, 45. Then you can kind of like maybe make some really decent changes. But if you don't do that before then, it's going to be very difficult to make those changes and to make those changes stick for a very long time. But that's part of like the black pill, and with the neurodivergent autism ADHD brains, this was causing a lot of like conflict, a lot of confusion with everyone. At least for me, I am trying to surround myself with the many people who are willing to talk about being neurodivergent and live their life in a very neurodivergent way, because that's pretty much the future. That's pretty much where we're going. Gen Z is doing a lot of good work on that. I know the next generation, Gen Alpha, they're going to be pretty much going to be like their whole entire lives is being like knowing that they're neurodivergent and kind of living their life in that way. So there's going to be a lot of changes in society coming very soon. Yeah, sooner than we know. I mean, there's already been a bunch of changes going on that we're kind of coping with right now, with how fast-paced our lives are, and how our brains are pretty much in year 3000, and the rest of our bodies are pretty much in the year 2000. So we're kind of fighting against ourselves right now, and it's that's why the economy and society is the way that it is right now. We're just kind of our worst enemies, but we will get through it. It's just who is going to get through it, and that's kind of what another point in this video is, like, who's actually going to make it and who isn't. And I think the black pill definitely is showing that the more gifted, the more attractive people are going to be the ones who are going to be able to make it through it, and the ones who aren't just will not. They're just going to struggle, because we just are very, very much on some better him than me type shit. Honestly, I'm seeing that, where people aren't trying to connect as much as we used to, even though why we connected back then was a little bit more sinister. It wasn't as, because we're all Americans, we're all the same, whatever. Like, no, it was a lot more biological and social reasons for it, and it wasn't so much about just doing the right thing or being kind. It's definitely rearing its ugly head now, where people are having fewer connections, fewer friends. Only have maybe a few friends who I can really confide in, and even then, I don't think I have any person in my personal life who can have this conversation with. I know that there's people out there, but we're scattered all over the globe. You know what I'm saying? There's so many of us who are at this point of knowledge and acceptance But like I said, we're just everywhere. And thankfully, the internet makes us feel less alone than, our environments that we're currently living in. So that's definitely a plus. But going back to me about like how this has affected like how I view the world and how I see the way people treat me and how they treat other people who are similar to me. And this transcends like race, even though my race plays a role in it. It's just a part. I see things as like a pie chart, and there's certain pieces of the pie that are bigger than others. I know like my race might be like in the top three biggest pieces, but it's not. I don't think it's the biggest piece. I think it's my attraction, my all the things that go with being attractive as a man. My height, my face, my body, my personality, even my voice. There's so many other things that it's kind of adds to it, to where that's why so many people are just so standoffish to me and don't really want me that close to them, because I like shine a mirror up to their who they are. And 100 years ago, it wouldn't be that big of a deal because we didn't know so many other people who were also similar to me, a pretty attractive person. I mean, attract. I mean like this, just attract people. You know what I'm saying? Even if you don't even see my face, just like my presence, my aura, whatever word you want to use or label you want to use, this attracts people. It always has, it always will. And before the internet, before we all started to kind of get more connected, it was easier to cope for people, even if you were neurotypical of that attractive person. They still, got treated, with a little bit with a harsher, little bit more harshly than everyone else. But it was always like it was a little bit more tame. But there's still so many examples and stories of attractive people just getting the absolute worst of society thrown at them. And that's like very blackpilling, knowing that that's pretty much my future. It's my present, it's my past, and it's my future, where I know I'm going to have the opportunity to get the best of society has to offer and humanity has to offer, but I'm also pretty much guaranteed to get the worst that it has to offer. And I'm going to see a whole lot of things that most people aren't going to see or go through personally, a lot of things that most people aren't going to go through by my existence, that I had no control over. And it's a beautiful thing, honestly. I definitely wouldn't want to be a regular person. I definitely like being a somebody versus a nobody. But I can definitely also see the benefits of being a nobody on like a day-to-day basis, of just going through life and not really dealing with a whole bunch of the nuance of being like a big presence and standing out. Even though I love it, it's definitely some days where I'm like, man, I really, really wish people wouldn't treat me the way that they treat me. Just want to kind of do my thing and then move on. It's just, but you can't have it both. You can't have your cake and eat it too, or eat your cake and have it too. However that phrase is supposed to be worded. So you gotta take the good with the bad. Yin and yang, good and evil, and all that fun stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much what the black pill means to me in my day to day. It's pretty neutral. I don't think the fact that all the people who are kind of doom and gloom with it want to take it and to have that be what the black pill is. I think that's very, very disingenuous. There's so much nuance being missed, but a lot of people who are in this space of the internet are clearly, autistic. And yeah, that's kind of how we think if we don't catch it and we don't really get ourselves diagnosed properly. Not even with a formal, diagnosis by a I think it's a psychologist. I don't think it's a psychiatrist. I'm not sure which one it is, but getting that one, but just getting one. There's so much information, so many articles, so many videos that can help you get towards the way you need to go, to figure out like how your brain is wired and how it's kind of like playing tricks on you a little bit. Neurodivergent people can definitely we can definitely be our worst enemies if we don't know exactly what's going on with our minds and how it can be manipulated and mutated to go one way when we really wanted to go a different way. And I see that in all the pill communities, a lot of the gender war that's going on. It's pretty much people who think one way because of their past experiences, or just continuously surrounding themselves with people and things that will always align with their thoughts. They will never seek out conflicting ideas because then they have to space themselves. That's a little too difficult for most people. They don't want to do that. And you can't make them do that either. So they're kind of, going on their path. And I see a lot of the people in the red pill space who I know at one point of their life were actually pretty decent people, but there were just some events that happened and it just caused them to think one way, and that's kind of how they are right now. And I am really pulling for them to get past that and be like, hey, this ain't it. You know what I'm saying? This is not it. You are too gifted to be thinking this way. And there's a lot of back and forth and infighting. And I know one day I will eventually have to join and get into that little, I don't even know what you want to call it, join that little fray that they're in, and just kind of hopefully have people think a little bit differently and be like, hey, this is kind of, this is a lot of this was supposed to happen. A lot of this is going to make us better as a people, as a species, as a bunch of animals just trying to not kill each other. But we're missing so much nuance. We're missing the forest through the trees. We're just kind of all just lashing out our emotions at each other versus actually trying to understand each other and trying to find a common ground. We're all just we're hyper focusing on our differences while neglecting to see all the things that we have in common. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, we're all just hurt. We're all just trying to just get past what happened to us, since a lot of neurodivergent people are very much traumatized. And even though, neurodivergent, autistic, ADHD brained people probably may not have gone through as much trauma as neurotypical people have, neurotypical people did not have the knowledge that we have, and that's what makes the trauma like 10 times worse. That we know that what's happening is abuse, isn't right. I think that's a ADHD trait of being hyper vigilant, or having a very high sense of justice. You know what I'm saying? Forgot the word that it is, but that's very much a ADHD thing I've been reading. And yeah, when you know that what's happening to you is wrong, especially at a very young age, it just amplifies the trauma, amplifies those feelings, and that's why we are, the most traumatized people ever, because we just know, if our grandparents and our great grandparents knew what was going on to them, they would probably be more traumatized than us, which we do see. Obviously we do see how traumatized the baby boomers and I think Gen Alpha, the old Gen Alpha, how traumatized they were because of their actions. We can see that how selfish they are, how inconsiderate they are, and how they just don't want to, meet us halfway. We all know that's pretty much like their trauma response about how they were raised by their parents and their society. So we're all just kind of dealing with the remnants of that, chickens always come home to roost. And right now, things are just very, very hard. I made a video about darkest before the dawn. Things are pretty dark, but I know that we have the tools to fix this. That's the beauty of the black pill. I feel like that's the true version of the black pill is understanding what it is, so we can get to the root of it. Once we get to the root, then we can do whatever we want to fix it. I'm going to make a whole bunch of videos, art pieces, music, video games that are just going to get to the root of the problem and not kind of stay in the surface level that a lot of people are doing. I really want to get to the root and really kind of like tap at the wounds and be like, hey, we got to talk about this. We got to really talk about this. Let's not go over here when it's a little bit more safer, it feels a little bit more comfortable, and let's go to the actual wound. Let's actually patch up this bullet wound instead of just putting a band-aid over it and saying that everything's all good. But the only way we can all get that is we all collectively black pill ourselves in a very, coherent way. Not everyone's going to take this information the same, especially depending on where you fall on the spectrum of the black pill. It's easier for me to black pill myself than an incel to black pill himself, because he doesn't, a lot of that information doesn't bode well for his future in his present and his past, where a lot of information bodes well for me because I can, start a family, have you start a family, have really good relationships, be very successful in business and entertainment. That's why I've always had these dreams, because I know I can fulfill them. I know that the obstacles that most people can put in front of me, I can hurdle them, where the average incel won't, because of not only what the other people are doing, but themselves as well. They don't have that innate confidence that I have or people like me have. So that's something that we're all gonna have to come to terms with as well. That's why I made my incel video. We gotta give them more grace. They're just trying to cope with who they are and kind of how they fall into the world that they were given. We were all given this world. We're all given this situation that we're in. We're all kind of like, what is this? That Dante meme is running through my head pretty much every day. We just walk outside and it's kind of trying to make sense of what the reality actually is versus like what we all think it should be. But once like I was saying earlier, once I kind of came to terms of who I was in the terms of Blackpill and who the people around me were, things started to make a lot more sense, and things were just becoming a lot more easier to take and understand, where I understand people's anger, their frustration towards society, and why people are just giving up left and right. It makes a lot of sense, but there's a lot of nuance being missed. Like I was saying earlier in a few other videos, things are way more complicated than what we ever could possibly know. We just need to keep digging deeper and deeper and deeper. Not even down, up, left, right. There's nothing is settled. The science isn't settled on anything. We're still figuring out our brains. Even we still don't even know what's going on in our brains. We haven't even been down to the deepest depths of the ocean. There's so many things yet to be discovered that, saying that things are over if you're like an incel was just you're cutting yourself. You're just limiting your potential as a person. Like, there's so many things that can be done. You just gotta have that confidence. But we're just in a very, very dark time right now mentally. So I can understand why so many people are giving up and throwing in the towel. But that's very I feel like that's the worst thing you can do overall. I understand it. I can feel it. I can empathize with it. But overall, giving up is not really the answer. I don't think for anybody, no matter where you fall in the black pill sphere in society. We all, are here for a reason. If you weren't supposed to be here, you would have never been born. But what are you going to do with this life that you were given? Everyone is technically a miracle. We all have less of a 1% chance of being born. So your life is a miracle. What are you going to do with that miracle? What changes are you going to make? And where are you going to be in those changes? I don't understand when I'm going to make, the impact that I'm going to make. I know so many people, so many incels, so many, normies, and so many, Chads, Tyrones, or whatever label you want to call everyone. They've influenced me to get to this point. You know what I'm saying? You could be an incel. You think that your life is meaningless. It's not. Like, someone gained something from your existence. Multiple people did. And that's something we can't discredit. Everyone's here for a reason, and it's here for our betterment as a people. I know it's hard to see it that way, but trust me, we are all here to better ourselves and to become better versions of ourselves. So, it might be over in this very narrow, hyper autistic way, but when you have that nuance, it's not even close to being over. Nothing is settled, and you are the captain of your ship, no matter who you are. Once we allow and get out of each other's way and allow each other to kind of do what's best for us. But some people, like I said, don't have the best interests as others, and we'll talk about that in a different video. But yeah, there's gonna be more black pill videos to come. That's pretty much what my channel's gonna be going towards moving forward. I'm still pretty new, kind of updating, making a new video every day. I think my most popular video now is my black pill video about incels, so I know that's pretty much what people are looking for, and that's why I'm going to keep making it. It's something that's very, very meaningful to me as well. So I'm gonna keep them coming. You know, feel free to leave some comments, and if you have anything to say, if not, or whatever, it's your life. I ain't gonna tell you what to do, but I would definitely be replying to them and being more engaged. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm not even sure what exactly all I talked about in this video. Just been rambling, yapping, as I do. But that's it. Get out of here.